sitting there, and when he sees my police car, he throws down his drugs and he begins to walk away. And so I already made up my mind that I'm not going to arrest him. So I get out of the car and I yell, stop. Well, he keeps walking. And this time I say a little bit louder. I said, stop. So he turns around and he comes back and he puts up his wrist in front of me like that. And he said, if you're going to arrest me, then throw on the handcuffs. Otherwise, I take it I'm free to go. Like, to think that a young child had that kind of audacity to talk to a senior police officer like that. But you got to understand, he's a byproduct of his environment. You can't really blame him.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, when a child does that, it's like, in his mind, what must be going on? I only have two choices.
Yeah.
You know, there's only two things for me. Either you arrest me or let me go.
Yeah.
And I continue to do what I'm doing.
Right? Because if you, what you just said right now, where does that come from?
Where does that
It
come
comes from because they've always had negative interactions with police. They don't want to have anything to do with police, right? They see police as the bad guys. Is that this person's either going to arrest me or he's just going to give me a hard time, so I don't want to have anything to do with him. And I tell the kid, I said, look, I'm not arresting you. You're free to go. But before you go, I sincerely want to know, well, how'd you end up down here? Like, what are your circumstances? Where's your parents? Where's your home? And the child looks at me, and he could see that I was being sincere, and he says to me, like, check this out. He didn't answer my questions. He posed the following questions to me. He said, if your mom left you when you were young and you have no idea who she is or where she is, your dad's lying home drunk right now on the sofa, has no idea where you are, and your brother's sitting in jail for dealing drugs and there's nobody else at home, he said, where would you be? And you know what, that was my revelation. That was my moment of epiphany. And I realized, you know what, screw it all, right? It's just like, we work so hard, I mean, for, to be a police officer, to enforce the law, to stay within the parameters of our job. But I mean, we have a greater sense of responsibility here, right? I mean, on a humanitarian level, where these are lives. These are actual lives, and we should be doing something about it. I had enough of that, so I called MCFD, which is a Ministry of Children and Families, and we got the kid out of that environment, out of that home, and we put him in with a foster home, a lot more positive environment than what he was in before. But it changed me as a human being. Like, that was my catalyst.
Yeah.
And I went to my inspector. This was back in 2007, 2008. I went back to my inspector and I said, hey, listen, just give me some basic funding, like even $500. I want to start running programs for these kids on my own time. I'll volunteer my time, right? Just if you can secure a little bit of money for me. He goes, yeah, sure, here you go. So gives me $500. With that $500, I buy water, trophies, medals, certificates, you name it, equipment.
And we collect all the kursiyan, chera from Gurdwara. I still remember I was pregnant with Afsana.
Yeah.
So that was our first program.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's
how it
we
all
did all that.
begins.
That's how it all began. And so we set up the field. And I remember it took me about a month to organize, but there was about 150 kids from the inner city school area that came out that day.
So that was the first
The very first.
Very
event.
first.
But that was for the police athletic league. That was for the Vancouver Police Department. And so these kids come out with raised eyebrows, suspicious looks on their face, very cynical, skeptical. It's like, what are the cops up to now, right? But I think when the kids came, and it was myself and a couple of other officers on our days off, and we started playing with the kids and kicking around the soccer ball, and they had a great time. And at the end of the day, these same kids that probably would have yelled at us or swore at
ran
us.
a mile,
right?
seeing a police officer.
Right?
Yes.
These same kids came up to us and gave us a big hug and said, thank you for your time. And that was sufficient enough for me, that reinforced and bolstered everything that I believed, that this stuff works. And so every single year that program grew exponentially, that within 7 years we went from a small little field in downtown East Side to BC Place Stadium with over 1,000 kids. And so we run, that's our flagship event now for Kids Play. We run that every single year with the exception of COVID. So we couldn't do anything about that.
So hopefully it will be back.
But that became the basis or the foundation on which we built Kids Play. And so in 2015, I officially founded Kids Play based on these concepts of providing free programs for kids. And so what we wanted to do is make them free, because we didn't want it to be financially restrictive or prohibitive on any parents and depriving that child of an opportunity. So all our programs are absolutely free. From 2015 till now, we've had over 60,000 kids go through our programs. And we run educational programs, we run sports programs like the summer camps we're doing today. We run mentorship programs, counseling programs, environmental programs, and we've started a new program called Community Patrol, where kids will be out on the streets in high visibility vests, to keep vigilance and observation on the streets to make sure the streets are safe.
So Cal, all the kids from all over BC can access this program?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. The neat thing is, so our program is all across the Lower Mainland, but we do a lot of Zoom presentations as well for the rest of BC. We officially opened up a chapter in Calgary now.
Wow.
There's a couple of members of the Calgary Police Department that are now part of the program running it. And we are also talking to some Toronto police officers and opening up a chapter in Toronto soon too. So, yeah, we're going across Canada.
Yeah,
Think about
that
it,
is so good.
like in a moment,
A small seed can
a
grow
small
that
seed
much.
can go into this
Yeah.
tree that can, provide shade for. Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what you
Amazing
need, like,
story.
at an early age, that's when you need to, you have to be preventative.
100%.
It's harder to fix
Yeah.
something afterwards. Being parents yourself, both of you, especially up in the South Asian community there, what do you think some of the barriers or the problems, parents, is it time? Trying to build, and obviously we don't want everything is so expensive. Buying a house is so expensive. So, but they have to prove, even if like families come from India, ਅਸੀਂ ਦਿਖਾਉਣਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਘਰ ਲੈਣਾ, ਕਦੋਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ,
ਘਰ
all
ਲੈਣਾ,
these pressures
yeah.
parents have. So what do you think you find, ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ barriers the parents have, is it time giving to their kids, or what is needed?
ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੋਟਿਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਇਵਨ ਡੋਂਟ ਹੈਵ ਟਾਈਮ ਫॉर ਈਚ ਅਦਰ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇਣਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਨੀਡਸ ਹੀ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਹਾਈ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ, ਘਰ ਵੇਚਣ ਲਈ, ਕਾਰਾਂ ਖਰੀਦਣ ਲਈ, ਘਰ ਖਰੀਦਣ ਲਈ, ਇੰਨੇ ਕੁ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਕੁ ਮੈਂ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਡੀਲ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਇਟ ਫੀਲਸ ਲਾਈਕ ਦੇ ਡੂ ਨਾਟ ਸਪੈਂਡ ਇਨਫ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਿਦ ਈਚ ਅਦਰ। ਹਾਊ ਦੇ ਗੋਨਾ ਗਿਵ ਟਾਈਮ ਟੂਗੈਦਰ ਟੂ ਦੇਅਰ ਕਿਡਸ? ਸੋ ਦੈਟਸ ਦ ਬਿਗੇਸਟ ਥਿੰਗ. Very big challenge actually. There's so much pressure to afford those payments that they're neglecting everything else, including their own relationship. I think everything starts from home. जे उन्हें चलो छोटा कर रख लो, small payment होगी, at least you are sitting down together, having a meal together, or just interactions. There's no interactions. There's no interaction.
Like Sandy and I, we make it a point of focusing on important stuff, making those a priority. For example, we tell our kids, it's important to be healthy. We want you to be physically active. We want you to play sports. It's important to get a good education. Whether you do anything with that education is a different story, but it's important to learn about the world, have a broadened perspective. So focus on higher education. It's important to do community service. That's because as human beings, we all have a moral obligation to help one another out. So we want to focus on instilling good, solid values and principles in our kids, like we do with Kids Play and what we teach those kids as well. But unfortunately, when we talk about the South Asian community, money and wealth has become the barometer of success, right? It's not about when we were growing up, when our parents taught us about go get a higher education, give back to society, become somebody that people can respect. It's not about that anymore. All those old traditional values are gone. They've eroded. Now it's about how much do you have in your bank account? What kind of house do you live in? What kind of cars do you drive?
Constant comparison.
Constant comparison.
The outside wealth.
And it's killing us, literally, because why do you think our kids are getting into the drug and gang lifestyle? If you go to any high school at lunchtime here in Surrey, actually anywhere really, but here in Surrey, you will see brand new Audis, brand new BMWs, brand new Mercedes parked in the student parking lot, Range Rovers. What does a kid in grade 11 and 12 need a brand new $90,000 Range Rover for? What are you teaching that child? Because if anything, you're teaching that kid a sense of self-entitlement, right? You're teaching them about instantaneous gratification. They asked, they received. And a lot of parents say, well, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ, ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਲੈਤਾ. What kind of mentality is that? Or what kind of logic is that? Because when you give your children that car, that is the first step down a slippery slope. And you've done an absolute disservice, because what you've essentially told the kid is, don't worry about hard work. Don't worry about sacrifice. Don't worry about committing yourselves to a goal, right? Don't worry about any of that. We got you. Anything you need, we'll give to you. And later on, when that kid, if they graduate from high school, they carry the same expectation. And the parents, when they can't afford it, and they've reached that certain limit, then what do these kids turn to for easy money? The drug and gang world.
I think they're trying to compensate with time.
So we don't
Because
have
they
the
cannot
time,
give
we're gonna
time,
give you the
money.
what you want.
Yeah.
But then, when parents compensate for time, obviously they're spending this time trying to make the money
There you go.
they're spending on the children. But like Cal said, they give $90,000 cars.
So that's why they're missing a relationship. Kids
Relationship.
even don't talk to them what's happening in their own life.
But I think going back to a little bit, like Cal was saying, encouraging participation with the children to pursue higher education, health, and all those stuff. But you need to be a role model in your children's lives. You need to be present and role model that.
A role model doesn't mean that you have to be a someone big in a
Exactly,
society.
doesn't mean-
You can be a role model at your own home, doing
Involve
small
them.
things, involve them, and taking your kids maybe to a volunteer program. Just that's involvement. That's showing them that we give back, so you give back as well, and also spending more time with them. And telling them time is precious. This relationship is more precious than money. So I think these are role model acts as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully I think, the shift will happen because, not only that kid that has the car and is given it because the parents have the money, then you've got the people that don't have the money but want it, and those kids want that,
Yeah.
and then go into that lifestyle.
And then go into a lifestyle because absolutely, that's the comparison you're referring to, where
Yeah.
they start comparing to one another, and I see that actually from a lot of families where the
A
kids
lot.
were
I
saying,
need to fit in.
I need
Fit
to fit in,
in.
right?
Fit in.
Where, you know what,
Yeah.
so and so has this Range Rover, I want it too, and you're gonna get it from me right now. It was a Mercedes dealership salesman that told me the following story. He goes, check this out, this is a true story. So mom and son come into the Mercedes dealership, and he goes, that's the car I want. He's only 18 years old. And so the mom puts her credit forward, and they're like, sorry,
Wow.
right? It doesn't fit your credit line. We can't do this for you, right? And so the kid's like, I'm not leaving here until I get something. So they look around the lot, something that fits within her credit range, and they find a Jeep Cherokee, brand new Jeep Cherokee. Still, decked out, has all the bells and whistles, so to speak. And they said, well, it's close. We can get this into your range, but you're going to need a co-signer. And the mom calls her sister. She goes, come down here, co-sign this truck for me,
Oh
so
my
that we can
God.
get this kid this truck.
Yeah.
Because the kid said, I'm not leaving here until I get something. Are you kidding me? The Mercedes, the dealership.
Even
salesman-
Mercedes, I mean, even today, I don't think I should spend that much on a Mercedes.
100%.
No,
I'd rather
absolutely
save
not.
that or
Better.
invest it in something
Invested
better.
and better, right? And even the salesman is looking at them, and like he wanted to say a lot. It's like he wanted to say to the mom, are you crazy? Like, what are you teaching this child here?
Yeah, and especially in the calling the sister, it's almost like the parents are working against each other to sabotage the child's future. You're
That's
gonna
what
do
they're doing,
whatever it
actually.
takes as a mom, whatever it takes to make sure your child lives happy. But are you doing anything good for this child?
No.
And just the other day, I received a phone call where the mom's openly telling me that her son is dealing dope. And she has two sons. One's a good boy. One's actually trying to get into university. He's working. He's doing all the right things. That's the older son. The younger one is selling dope, and he's involved in the wrong track. And the bad guys have already come over, the opposite gang, and they've already smashed all the windows of the home, smashed all the windows of the cars, and they sent the family a message saying, leave. And I tell the mom, I said, look, your youngest one is involved in this lifestyle. You have done everything within your possibility and range to get this child out. And this child doesn't want the help. This child wants to stay in that lifestyle. If that's the case, because the younger child is 18, nonetheless, still an adult, but the mom doesn't want to let him go, even though the other guys, the bad guys, have come
Jeopardize.
over and give him a clear message. I said, look, you have a responsibility to your older son. That's actually doing everything by the book and doing it the right way, because they have a lot of family in Kelowna too. I said, go, leave, take your older son to Kelowna, get somewhere safe. And you know what, if the younger child, you've given him all opportunities to change, and he still doesn't want to change, and he wants to live in this lifestyle, because he's made it quite clear to the mom, he said, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving my friends that are involved in a lifestyle. I'm not leaving this lifestyle. I like the money. It's good. And I feel kind of bad for her because she was a single parent. There's only so much she can do. But nonetheless, her older child turned out well.
Yeah.
I said, focus on him. Your focus should be on him, because if you stay here and something happens tomorrow and they end up shooting and killing your older son, that's something that you will regret for the rest of your life. And she goes, I'm not going anywhere.
So in order to protect the younger one, she could sabotage.
She's
There
putting
you
her
go.
safety at risk.
Yeah.
She's putting the safety of her oldest son at
It's
risk.
like you're willing to sacrifice, that's
But these are actual real stories that are out there.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
there's
so
actually
much.
lots. It's just one story. There are so many stories like that.
Yeah.
So many stories like that.
I mean, like Kids Play you started, which is and it's been going on and proven that it's helping, assisting, making a shift, and hopefully it'll continue to make that shift and do the great thing that it's doing. Also want to touch on about you guys, your family life. So you said you live in a joint family, and nowadays when we even hear that people still live in joint families, so I even think that is so much, like Cal was saying, the old values, the morals, which are kind of diminished now. So how is that? How did you've always lived in a joint family and you just cohabit together, and how do you find that?
Since actually I moved to Canada 17 years, yes, we always lived in an extended family. पर ਉਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ ਕਿ ਕੰਪਰੋਮਾਈਜ਼ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਆ ਕੰਪਰੋਮਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਾਜੀ ਈਵਨ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਡਡ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਪਰੋਮਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਦੋਨੇ ਸਾਈਡਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈਲਪ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਫਿਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੰਮ 'ਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਮ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਐਟ ਹੋਮ they are safe, they are spending time with their grandparents, so I'm not worried about nanny and I'm not worried to drop them off anywhere. ਮੈਨੂੰ extended family 'ਚ ਰਹਿਣ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਏਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਈ. So I'm grateful to that. Yeah.
You started working जब तुसी आए थे कनाडा च किहड़ा काम तुसी करदे सी?
सब तो पहला वाओ मेरी फर्स्ट जॉब सी सबवे पे क्योंकि मूविंग टू कनाडा भावें कि मेरे को मास्टर सी बैक फ्रॉम होम but I did not have any experience and also I'm from a small village so my English was not that actually skilled so I had to do ESL classes so I started working as a subway then upgraded to London Drugs then slowly to Royal Bank. I worked at Royal Bank for 7-8 years. And then after having 2 kids, I actually stopped because it was a 9-to-5 job and I couldn't do it having 2 young kids. But now I work as a personal trainer.
Yes, and also when we talked about the extended family, what I find so inspirational is that both of you together and also with the extended family, you are able to be the best selves of yourselves. And the way you guys support each other. I mean, sometimes ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣੀ mentality ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੀ ਜਾਂ South Asian mentality, ਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ, but it's like I look at your unit, your family unit, both of you, it's like to support each other, to actually be a family that supports and be a support so the other person can reach their potential.
ਥੋੜੀ ਸਟਰਗਲ ਸੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਕਹੂੰਗੀ ਬਾਡੀ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਮ ਡੈਡ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਸਪੋਰਟਿਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਬਾਡੀ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਦੀਆਂ ਪਰ ਸਲੋਲੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਇਹ ਆ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿ ਇਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਬਾਡੀ ਇਟਸ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਈ ਅਲਕੋਹਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਮੋਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਲੱਬਿੰਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਮੋਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਇਟਸ ਆਲ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਹੈਲਥ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਹੈਲਥ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਨੰਬਰ 1 ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਆ ਇਨ ਕੋਲੈਸਟਰੋਲ ਐਂਡ ਹਾਈ ਬਲੱਡ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਸੋ ਇੰਨੇ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਦੱਬ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਲਥ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਵਿਚ ਇਜ਼ ਰੌਂਗ ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੰਡਰਸਟੈਂਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤੀ.
So Cal, you said you were into fitness. So you were always this fit officer, hero making a difference.
Yeah, you know what, there's a funny story behind that is when she first came to Canada, I took her to the gym with me. And she had never seen the inside of a gym, ever before. She had never played any sports. She didn't even, nothing. No physical activity
Did
at
you
all.
have to drag her there the first time?
I did.
Yes.
She didn't want to go, so I dragged her along, and I put her on here's the funny part. I put her on a treadmill. I punched in the buttons.
Because I did not know what to do.
I punched in the buttons. I put her on a very slow speed, and I said, you walk here. I'm going to go work out. I'll come and grab you when I'm done. It's just a walk. That's all you got to do is just walk. I come back, and there's big tears streaming down her eyes. She goes, I don't want to do this.
Why are you trying to kill me?
Why are you trying to kill me, right? And so after that, she comes home and she goes, no, never again. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It's your first day. I know your legs are a little bit sore, but you'll get used to it. I promise you, right? Anyways, my mom convinced her too.
Wow.
My mom's
She
like,
did actually. ਕਿ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੌਂਕ ਆ ਜਿਮ ਦਾ ਨਾਲ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ 12 ਘੰਟੇ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਿਫਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਇਸੇ ਬਹਾਨੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਸਪੈਂਡ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਸੋ ਮਤਲਬ ਤੇ ਇਹੀ ਸੀਗਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਈ ਫਰੈਂਡ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਬੈਕ ਹੋਮ ਛੱਡੇ ਸੀ ਸੋ ਇਟ ਵਾਸ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਕਾਈਂਡ ਆਫ ਸਪੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਿਦ ਹਿਮ ਤੇ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਾ
So she went from literally walking to jogging to running to sprinting to lifting weights and to being the very first competitor in our family, winning. And she's won now. The last competition, she beat out international fitness stars. And she's one of the
That's
best.
amazing.
She's one of the best right now.
Actually, ਹੁਣ ਲੋਕੀ ਕੈਲ ਕੋਲ any more suggestion ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ
Now they're
ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ
calling for suggestion.
It's true.
I know he feels sad about it. I'm like,
You know, and I see, you know, you posted on social media your picture
Hanji.
like before and now, you know,
Hanji.
before when you started on the journey.
ਹਾਂਜੀ
And a lot of moms or, you know, women in general, we feel like ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨਾ, we have to take a lot on, and they kind of put themselves at the back, or they go and they don't go, they, you know, they kind of just let it go.
Hanji.
How did you motivate yourself, like, even though Cal was motivating you,
ਜੀ
it has to do, you still have to commit
Inside.
and make that commitment. Not only, you didn't only make that commitment, you went above and beyond. I mean, like, look at you now.
Thank you
How
so
did
much.
you actually do that?
Wow, that's a tough question actually. Never anyone asked me this question. I can say it was just a passion, ignite passion हो गया. पर मैं हौली हौली लर्न करना शुरू कर दिता, वीडियो वॉच करनियाँ शुरू कर दित्तियाँ, बुक्कां पढ़नियाँ शुरू कर दित्तियाँ जिन्हां विच लिखिया होया सी consistency is the key. You have to keep doing it. ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ result overnight ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਮਹੀਨਾ ਚ, ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ it take years,
exactly. And I
it
think
take
that's
months.
sometimes we feel like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, ਦੋ ਦਿਨ ਇੱਕ week ਚ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਘਟਿਆ, or I'm not looking different, forget this, right?
ਹਾਂਜੀ
Yeah, absolutely.
ਬਹੁਤ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ 2-3 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਗੋਲ ਅਚੀਵ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਡ੍ਰੌਪ ਆਊਟ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਲਥ ਆ ਇਟਸ ਫੋਰਐਵਰ. ਯੂ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਕੀਪ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਕੀਪ ਗੈਟਿੰਗ ਬੈਟਰ ਐਟ ਦੈਟ.
One thing I do want to say is,
Hanji.
you know, when Cal was speaking to you about your journey,
ਹਾਂਜੀ
the passion is, you know, as a couple you see, and I think, you know, I'm looking at, love is just not enough. The amount of love and the respect and the encouragement he has for you, you know, it takes, like, when you're in a relationship, living in extended family homes with children and everything, you know what, the two has to work together to achieve where you both
ਕੈਲ
are.
ਦੀ ਸਪਿਰਿਟ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਸੱਚੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਸੀ. ਮੈਂ ਹਜੇ ਵੀ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਹੱਸਦੀ ਸੀ. ਮੈਂ ਰੀਸੈਂਟ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਸੁਣਾਉਂਦੀ ਹਾਂ. ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਆਮ ਗੋਣਾ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ. ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਲਾਸਟ ਈਅਰ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਦੇ ਡਿਊਰਿੰਗ ਕੰਪੀਟੀਸ਼ਨ ਕੀਤਾ, ਇਟ ਵਾਸ ਅ ਲੋਕਲ ਸ਼ੋ, ਤੇ ਹਜੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਡੈਡ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਡਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਹਜੇ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੱਸਦੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਬੋਡੀ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਸ਼ੋ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਉੱਥੇ ਟੈਨਿੰਗ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਟੈਨਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਰਾਤ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ. ਸੋ ਮੇਰਾ ਟੈਨਿੰਗ ਟਾਈਮ ਸੀਗਾ ਸਵੇਰ ਦੇ 3:30 ਤੇ 3:30 ਵਜੇ. ਕੈਲ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਹਨੇ ਸਵੇਰ ਨੂੰ 2:30 ਵਜੇ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ. ਬਰਨ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਟੈਨਿੰਗ ਸੀਗੀ. ਮੇਰੇ ਫਾਦਰ ਇਨ ਲਾ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਸੀ. ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋਈ, 2 ਬੈਗ ਤਿਆਰ ਕੀਤੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਰਾ ਦਿਨ ਫਿਰ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਸੀਗਾ, ਮੈਂ ਸਮਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ. ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਰੈਡੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ, ਆਪਣੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ. ਡੈਡੀ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਆ ਗਏ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਚੱਲੀ ਆ 2 ਵੱਡੇ ਬੈਗ ਲੈ ਕੇ. ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਪੰਗਾ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ, ਹੁਣ ਕੀ ਕਰਾਂ. ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਡੈਡ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ, ਨੀਂਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਜਸਟ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ TV ਦੇਖਣ ਲੱਗੀ. ਉੱਥੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋਇਆ ਉੱਤੋਂ ਡੈਡ ਸੋਫੇ 'ਤੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਗਿਆ 2:30. ਦੈਨ ਡੈਡ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਾਥਰੂਮ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ, ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਬਾਥਰੂਮ ਗਏ ਆ. ਜਦੋਂ ਲੌਕ ਲਾਇਆ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੈਗ 'ਚ, ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਦੇਖਿਆ, ਗਰਾਜ ਖੋਲ ਕੇ ਨੱਠ ਗਈ. ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਰਾਈਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਮਮ ਨੂੰ ਉਠਾ ਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਸੋਨੋ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਈ ਆ. ਮਮ ਲਾਈਕ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਡਿਸਟਰਬ ਕਰੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਨੂੰ.
She's run away. She's
like,
left us.
After that many years.
After that many years, there are still challenges.
Yeah.
There are still challenges, but actually that's what makes a journey worth it.
Yeah. And I think even just sharing that story
Oh,
as a funny story, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the problem nowadays is also, you know, like people or younger generation don't want so many rules or strict kind of, they're not understanding. I mean, even I think myself and my kids, they, you know, the gap and the understanding, like what they are going through, what they have is completely different from when I was growing up. So there's a lot of
So true.
understanding and kind of working together, which is
which is true. And ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਐਲਡਰਸ ਦੀ, ਇਹ ਹਜੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਫਰੀडम ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਗੋਲ ਤੇ ਕਰੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜੇ ਆ, which we didn't have it. So we still struggle for that, but you know, that's I think that's the journey. That's ups and downs.
yes.
So, you know, we have a few more minutes.
Hanji.
So, what is next? Like, where do you guys see yourselves in 5 years?
Okay, Cal.
What's on the horizon?
Are you gonna run away?
Everybody has a
Again.
story.
Again.
Everybody has a story. I'm
Yes.
recently learning is what's your 5-year plan? You know,
Yes.
people always underestimate what they're gonna do in 5 years and
Yeah.
overestimate what they're gonna do, you know,
Yeah.
in one. But they
Yeah.
always underestimate what they can accomplish in 5. Obviously, you guys have accomplished a lot. So.
Thank you.
I'll be very honest with you. despite being a Sikh background and following all of the principles of Sikhi, named primarily Seva, there's a lot of Buddhist principles that I follow as well. And one of the key ones is living in the moment, right? So in that respect, I've told Sandy as well, like, let's not think too far in the future in terms of what's going to happen or what we need to be doing. Goal setting is important, but in terms of long-term strategy, like, once again, we don't reflect on the past. We don't look in the future. It's just about now, right? Do your best today and make every day count. Just as simple. So from the time that we get up in the morning till the time that sun goes down and we're ready to go to bed, we both feel that we've done our best.
Be honest with you, yeah, I want to elaborate that we are trying to make our future better, which even doesn't exist, and we lose our today. So why not just live today, and future will come. It will be bright if we live actually intentionally today. Yeah.
I think you guys are so humble and so modest, even in saying that. I think you put so much seva, so much service out there to do so much good to our community, but you do not take the credit that, every day the work you do, that you deserve so much credit. Every day you're making a difference. In the next 5 years, I don't know how many children's lives kids play will,
and hopefully in the
change
next years we'll see more of Sandy and Cal do together, more couples like this, more families, because you do inspire the community, and we're so privileged to have you guys as part of the South Asian community. So thank you for being on MindSense. And before you guys do go, you have to promise that you guys come back and maybe show us some exercising in the studio that people that are watching can do, very simple, or even some hard ones that maybe somebody wants to do.
Sounds good.
That's an absolute promise.
Yeah, and I think doing together, it also gives like community out there to couples can work out, do
At
things
that
together.
Cal will be my client. I will be teaching on him. I will just write.
What else is new?
I'll be your client,
Yes, we will be. Yes.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much.
It was a privilege being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for watching MindSense. Until next time, this is Meena J.
मैं हूँ आपकी होस्ट सुमिता चंद.